Hey folks, welcome to P&K Q&A, Season 2, Episode 11, Part 2. Invite Crow back.
Well, that was annoying.
Hello, Crow. They must have heard us talking about Twitter or whatever.
Oh yes, our overlords cut us off. Yes, yes. You'll know who your overlords are by who you're not allowed to make fun of. Yeah.
Yes,
So, unfortunately, we make fun of everybody, so it's really hard to tell who's getting pissed off at us. So, we do our best to be consistently annoying to everybody. Especially atheists. I don't know. My atheists are my sometimes can be my favorite people to debate with when I'm in the mood for it, because all they have in their wheelhouse is uh, is material science and anecdotal arguments. And it's like, this was my experience in the Christian church. This or I know of this happening in the Christian. Yeah, well, you know what? Bad shit happens everywhere. I mean, it's happened to me. It's happened to you. It's happened to the guy up the street. The only thing you can do is be smart. Pay the fuck attention. Why do you think Q always tells us situational awareness is a wonderful thing? Pay attention to the shit going around you, so that way it doesn't come and bite you in the ass later. Have a strong foundational character, so that you'll actually say what you mean and mean what you say, and not just parrot other people, or worse yet, say what you think other people want you to hear. I mean, I'm not saying that, it's so, yeah, they can be pretty fun, because they can only take their argument to a certain point, and then everything starts falling apart.
Right.
Whereas a debate on spirituality, a true debate on spirituality takes in the material sciences, but then stretches it further into philosophy, to where you can actually start making a logical exploration of what could be true and what is a fallacy. Most of what people think of religion, well, religion as we know it today is just riddled with fallacies. I mean, the word religion actually means in search of the divine, or in search of creation. That's really what religion means. It's just in search of something, outside or within yourself. Science can be a religion too. You're in search of the mysteries of the material universe. So, sorry, atheists, your religion actually is science when put into the proper definition of what religion really is. Institutional religion, on the other hand, well, that's institutional religion. And like all institutes, they can be corrupted. And I'd say most of our religious institutes on this planet are corrupted right to the core. And this is why so many people have left the church over the years. I mean, there are some churches, but usually the good churches are centered around a community idea, the idea of community, and not so much on hung up on whatever their denomination wants them to teach. But the denomination sometimes does assert its authority, and the church has to kind of go along with it because they're getting money from a central organization to help keep their community church open. I understand the bind that everybody gets in. This is the bind that everybody gets in because of money. When they say the money is the root of all evil, it's not that money is evil. It's what we've done with it that is evil. We've hoarded it. We've created a situation where we have allowed people to hoard wealth. That is the biggest thing that is destroying our economy. It's the biggest thing that destroys all economies through all of history, is greed and hoarding of wealth. And, beyond what you need. It's like, money, our exchange of value is not meant to sit stagnant. Anything that sits stagnant will rot. It's as simple as that. In order to keep our economy vibrant, we got to keep money moving around all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that you got to be constantly buying goods. You don't, constantly being on Amazon. No, it's like, instead of spending that money on a material thing, it's like fill your soul with something else. Like, get on Patreon, find your favorite YouTuber and get on Patreon and support them with $4 a month. I mean, if you like that person's content, support them. I mean, why are you wasting your money on material things that you don't need when you can support people that are helping lift you up spiritually? And it doesn't even have to be a spiritual person that does it. I mean, my favorite YouTuber right now is a guy that lives out of his van, and he does content, and he talks, and he's got an awesome radio voice. He's really good with the camera, and it's just, I don't know, it relaxes me to see that there's at least one normal person out there just living their life and doing the best that they can in a honest and faithful way to themselves. This guy's not even religious or anything like that. I'm not even sure what he believes because he doesn't talk about it. I am fairly certain that he probably professed to be an atheist, several years ago when he was living in his downtown condo. I'm sure if anybody asked him what he believed in, I'm sure he would have answered that he was an atheist. But now that he has spent 4 years in his van, traveling around, meeting people, and just living the nomad life, I'm not so sure if he would say that now, because too much has happened in his life to make him question what's going on. Because for lack of a better term, the blessings in his life are just unbelievable. But I know that most of that is because of the hard work that he has put into his channel. But there's other things that happen in his life because he puts his whole life on YouTube, so you get to see what's going on. Is the people that he ended up attracting around him, and the people that he is helping, and the people that are helping him. It's an amazing journey to watch. That's all I can say. And I don't mind helping that guy out with $4 a month. Why not? I'm one of 1,000 people that are helping him out. If everybody is only giving him $4 a month across 1,000 people, that's $4,000 a month. The guy's making a fucking living, and he's able to keep creating content that I enjoy, and obviously 1,000 other people, but he's got over 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. So obviously, 1,000 other people think the same way that I do, that he's worth supporting. you want to fill your soul spiritually, do shit like that. Just help people, and I'll tell you, once we start doing that and start moving our economy away from a consumer-based economy, that the sooner things will start straightening out. And I'll tell you, China's got it figured out in a way that that other countries haven't figured it out. China builds factories. I'm not supporting a communist government, but I can be impressed with how they do things. The way they build their factories is they are multifunctional. So what they will do is they'll bring in all the parts to build a clothes iron, let's say. And so they'll spend 3-4 months and all they're doing is making a clothes iron. That's all they're doing. And then after that, the way this factory is put together, it takes them like a day or two to overturn the factory, and now they'll start producing hair dryers, and they'll start shipping out hair dryers, and then they'll build hair dryers for a while, and then the factory changes what it's making based on the demand in the market. And instead of having instead of building 1 million widgets and then shoving those widgets down people's throats with through salesmen, which is what happens. It's like, no, it's like, let everybody, I mean, we are at a point now in our society, in our technology, to where we could actually start building things on a on-demand basis. Like, we could start building automobiles on demand, and and in between time, when the demand is low, it's not like you're going to stop making vehicles. What it is that we have to create an economy to where people can pick up a income in more than just having to leave their home to go do it. It's like, it is possible to create an economy on the internet where people can make a little bit of money to kind of bounce them along through things, just participating in social media. I mean, right now, people are making a few extra bucks just doing surveys all fucking day. I mean, if you got the time, go right ahead. I mean, I'm one of those people that would prefer to go outside and work with my hands as opposed to staying inside in front of a computer screen. But not everybody's like me. Just like not everybody is like, we're not like each other. We're human beings. We're individuals. We're all fucking different. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to comprehend, but for some odd reason, it is for our leaders to comprehend that we're all different. We're individuals. I thought that shit was outlined in the fucking Constitution, but I don't know. 21st century somehow has forgotten about that. So yeah, there's tons of ways, and I mean, I'm hoping that Trump Social is going to help in that arena to help move forward a crypto type economy. It's already happening. It's and I think Elon Musk is going to be doing something real soon, because he's selling a Elon coin, crypto coin. My daughter's bought like a couple of million of them. And I told her, I was like, yep. I was like, hang on to them. Oh. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah, because I said, you never know what that fucker's going to do. He already knows that the old system is not worth it. Because he talked a little bit about it in an interview where, he's like, they say I own Tesla, but he says, in reality, he says, I really don't. It's like he says, they say that I have these billions of dollars, But he's like, really, I don't. He says he says technically yes, but he says it's not actualized cash. He says it's more like Tesla is worth X number of dollars, and they add that to the bottom line value of, me, I guess, he says. But technically, he says, I'm not a rich man. He said, he said, not even by a long shot. So I told her, I was like, hang on to those because you never know what Elon's going to do. He might use those coins as a source of value for a new company that he's going to launch. And then that will be the stock in that company, and it would give an opportunity for the employees to buy stock. Elon Musk really, the model that he actually prefers as a business model is that the employees own the stock in the company, not some foreign investor in some faraway land. He would prefer that model, but it hasn't happened for him because of what was necessary to get Tesla off the ground. And I can only imagine the hoops that he had to jump through in order to put a Tesla plant in California. So
in summation, we need a creation-based economy rather than consumer-based economy with flexible production and a different kind of currency, an updated, future-proof currency.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have 3D printers and we have other types of technology that can certainly do that. On one episode of something called Smarter Every Day, I saw them do and I forget now if they used a 3D printer or a laser or a combination of both, but they made this magnet that you couldn't tell by looking at it, but they were able to make it so that when two halves of the magnet were twisted one way, they oppose each other, and then when you twisted it 90 degrees or something, it locked together. And yeah, so they were able to 3D print the magnetic. Somehow they were able to set up how the magnets were arranged on this thing so that it did that. So you can have like magnetic latches and things.
Programmable magnets is what they are. And this technology was fresh and new in 2010. And when I seen that, the possibilities, once they perfected that science, I was like, the possibilities are fucking endless. I mean, because I played with magnets before, and the biggest struggle that you have when you're trying to like set up magnetic fields is that you're always dealing with the diametric opposing forces all the freaking time. And I tried everything I could think of and using different materials to try to bend and separate those magnetic fields so that I could manipulate them in the direction that I wanted them to. I was at this point in time, this was like back in, probably in the early 2000s, probably around like 05. I was trying to build a mag motor, a motor that would produce rotational energy using the force of magnets with no electricity, is what I was trying to do. And I had some success. What I was doing at the time, it was actually pretty cool, is that I had like, the magnets didn't go in a straight line. I had them like curving around a drum. And I did get some angular momentum, but it wouldn't it wouldn't build on itself. It just kept on dropping off because of energy losses through the bearings and what have you. I knew where I was getting all my energy losses, but there's only so much I can do, right? I mean, you know, I had some decent roller bearings, but I was always fighting with those energy losses. And I figured, and I could see where my interference was when I would check my magnetic fields with this special piece of this special material. It'll show you. You put it against it, and it changes color with the magnetic fields. And I see where my leakage was, and so I was trying all kinds of material. I even tried using iron to redirect it so the magnetic fields would draw towards that. That had some success, and I imagine if I spent more time, I might have figured out where I could put those magnetic pieces or those iron pieces to manipulate the fields I needed. I ended up buying an exotic piece of material. It was made up of non-ferrous materials, and it was in a thin sheet that I could stick to the magnets and help direct their magnetic field. That worked to some extent, to the point to where I actually had that thing turning at a steady rate. But the problem is that there wasn't enough torque energy to do anything substantial with it. It's like as soon as a load went on it, I mean, it died immediately.
Yeah.
So basically, I created enough energy.
I just had a thought to run. Yeah, it would run itself, but it wouldn't run anything else. I just had a thought, and I was thinking, programmable electromagnets with some kind of a optical position sensor that would have them attracting when they came toward a fixed magnet or a fixed piece of iron, and then when they passed it, switching to repulsion. And if you balance that properly in the drum and had optical sensors, it should not take any extra rotational energy to run it, but should add. Does that sound like anything that would work?
That would probably
something that flips the electromagnets based, and it's non-contact, so no drag, I think.
You are correct. Because that was actually a design that I actually drew out. I drew out that design, what you're talking about, where I had the magnetic drum, and then I had 4 field magnets around it. 2 of them were going to be stationary, and 2 of them were going to be dynamic. And they, the design that I came up with, they were going to work off of an end cam, so that as the drum came around, it would move a lever and rotate the magnet. And then as it came around, it would rotate it back, and it would be just all the time as it rotated. So I had that I had that all drawn out, and I had the weight of the springs and everything all measured out, and I was like, it was more energy loss is what it was, but I never built it.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, okay, yeah, because the energy loss of any mechanical, and I was just thinking here, okay, well, I'm kind of cheating because I'm putting batteries in this thing, and you have to, if you're having a true energy neutral or energy positive machine, you have to have it charge itself or something like that. So yeah, I don't know if that would work, but if, let's see, if the cost of charging the batteries was somehow less, then you could do it from solar power or something. Anyway, it's an interesting problem, and I don't know if any mechanical device will actually serve. I think you'd have to have something like some type of nuclear reactor or some type of what they call 0-point energy or vacuum energy or some exotic thing. In my science fiction novel, I invented a ship, something called a was it a quantum power supply that basically pulls energy out of space or subspace or something? The ship never has to refuel.
Technically, we could have that now using supercapacitors and a antenna device that draws energy directly out of the atmosphere. And the reason why you would have to use supercapacitors is because energy flows easily into capacitors and not as easily as into batteries. And also, capacitors will fill up faster. Supercapacitors will fill up quickly, and they can discharge slowly. And so you can do that. There was a guy, I watched a video, and it was awesome. I was like, wow. I was like, that is a smart guy. What he did is he went and he got himself some supercapacitors, and he ganged them together to create a 12-volt supercapacitor to replace his 12-volt battery in his car. And again, like I said, supercapacitors, they fill up real fast, and they can release really fast, or they can release slowly, depending on what application you have them in. He used this, and all he had to do to give it its initial charge, he just took the booster cables, tap, done. Just tapped it. That's all he had to do. And then, boom, the car started up off of the supercapacitor pack. And I was like, that's pretty fucking amazing. And then once the supercapacitor started the car, the alternator's taking over now. And so now the alternator's keeping the supercapacitors topped up. And if there's a call, it'll draw it from the supercapacitor pack. But for the most part, it's drawing it from the alternator of the car while the engine is running. And so now the car just operates as normal. And then he was like, I wonder how long these things can hold a charge. And so he experimented. And what he found out is that, yeah, these things held a charge for 3 nights at close to 0 temperatures, 0 degrees Celsius temperatures. And yeah, so basically it took a while for him to do this. So he let it sit overnight, started it the next day. Great. And then he turned around, and after that, he let it sit for 2 days, and then goes out, starts it up. Great. And then after that, he let it sit for 3 days, and then he went out and tried to start it. All he got was a whom, and then that was it. Got like half a turn out of the starter. And then that's when he was like, oh, okay. And then all he had to do, just top him back up. Again, he just walked over with a battery that already had a charge in it, booster cables, touch it, boom, car fired up. So what he figured out is that, I can use these supercapacitors if I am running the car every day for work. And he will never have the problems that are associated with acid or gel batteries, which is, they just sulfate, and then they create internal resistances, and the plates get warped, and then the battery's garbage. These supercapacitors, they'll last 100 years. And their performance will change very little over that time. And you're like, well, how do I know they're going to last 100 years? Because right now, our regular capacitors will last 100 years. They will hold a charge. There's stories. There's all kinds of stories out there where guys have found capacitors that have been sitting on a shelf for 60, 80 years, like since World War II. And they touch the prongs and they get shot across the room. Because when a capacitor discharges, it discharges all at once. And I've had it happen to me. I had a on this finger, I think it was, I accidentally crossed the terminals on a capacitor for a microwave oven, and it was just a small capacitor. It was like 0.09 microfarads. And holy shit, that burned a white line through my finger. So I had a scar under the skin from the travel from the electrical arc. And that had me fucking walking back and forth in the shop, holding my finger for probably close to 10 minutes. It was a lot of pain. That's all I can say. And yeah, well, I walked it off. It took 10 minutes to walk it off. Let's put it that way. And yeah, that's a lot of pain if it takes 10 minutes to walk it off.
Let's see. The worst for me is I get zapped by an electric fence. In Oklahoma, we had run around the corral, and we were doing something with the corral, and I didn't see the location of the fence, and I touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
But
my buddy,
that's intense.
My buddy up the road, when I was growing up, used to spend his weekends in the city with his mother. And so he would sometimes bring out one or two of his city friends out to the farm. I haven't got two clues about anything. And I remember we're like 12, 13, 14 years old at this time. So they don't know shit about farm or electric fences. We constantly, if they asked where, if they were like, where can I take a piss? We would always point towards the electric fence without fail. And it wasn't even an agreement amongst me and my brothers. It just seemed like the right thing to do. So yeah, and actually the funny part is that the only one that actually hit the fence once to get a shock was actually Mike, my buddy. And it was late at night. We had stolen some liquor from our parents. I think we were like 14. And yeah, we're just fucked up off of old fucking liquor, fucking old rum. Fuck. Yeah, shit you do when you're a kid. That's also about the time that I figured out that I really, really, really don't like alcohol. It just left you with a headache and just a sick feeling all over. And then people told me that it goes away when you get used to it. But
yeah, they must have guardian angels when we're young. I'm surprised I'm still alive, and I hardly did anything very crazy. I just think listen to the stories my friends tell about stuff they survived, and I'm like, okay, somebody must have been watching over you.
oh, I remember one time I was rock climbing, and I grabbed the wrong rock and I started sliding. Like I was a little scared. And the whole time I'm sliding, I'm thinking, oh, this is it. Goodbye, cruel world. I'm fucked now. Which is pretty much the same thought that I have every time I get something like this happens. I'm just like, okay, here we go. And yeah, I did manage to catch an outcropping with my leg, because I mean, it was on an angle, so it wasn't sheer cliff. It was, but the potential, but there were sheer cliffs that I was sliding towards. I was sliding towards a sheer cliff, and I fucking well knew it. And yeah, I caught my foot on an outcrop, and boom, I stopped. About 6 inches from the edge of the cliff. And I'm looking down the cliff, and everything at the bottom is about this big. So yeah, I was up a ways, and yeah, and all I could think to myself, I probably would have died if I went over that. Yeah, probably I would have. But yeah, and and for some odd reason, I remember, it's a clear fucking memory, and it's clear as day, turning to my right and just being like, thanks, I needed that. And I have no idea who I was talking to. I don't remember seeing anybody there, hearing anything, but I just felt compelled to look to my right and say thank you. And then I turned and I climbed carefully back up the cliff and just kind of got to the top of the mountain and just kind of sat there for a while. And it was like, shit, I could be dead right now. So that's happened a few times in my life. First time it happened is when I flipped my bike. And when I say flipped, I was told that me and the bike were like fucking, like we rotated a couple of times in midair. This is what I was told by onlookers. And yeah, I was lucky that the fucking bike didn't land on me, for number one. It landed somewhere off to the side away from me. And when I landed on the ground, I'm just like, I landed on my back and I'm just laying there looking up at the sky. And I think I was like 13 years old, and I'm just like, holy fuck, am I even still alive? And that was like the worst accident I was ever in up until that point. I mean, I've been in like rollovers in cars, but had my seatbelt on and I didn't even think about it. It was just like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm part of the car. There's no cliffs anywhere. We're just going to roll in this field a couple of times. It's going to come to a stop. We climb out. I mean, believe it or not, I mean, I was in, first time I was in a car that rolled, I think I was like 5 years old. And it's just lucky that my cousins were smart enough to buckle all of us little kids in. And like my two older cousins, Manfred and Philip, like they were just like Dukes of Hazzard's boys is what they were. They were just like, when it came to cars, these guys were just fucking dumb a little bit and a little bit crazy. They just wanted to like just spin cars. And actually, I think Dukes of Hazzard's was on air at about that time. And my two older cousins, well, Bo and Luke, that was their idols. And they did try to find a Dodge Charger that they could do up like the General Lee. But the problem is that cars in the East, they rot out in 10 years. And so there was no finding any Dodge Charger worth that you could put on the road at any point. They did actually find a AMC, or was it, no, a Chev Pony, I think it was. But when I think about what the car looked like, it looked more like a Nova, but they called it the Pony. And so it was, I remember that it was painted black with a paintbrush because it had the paintbrush streaks all down it. So they wanted it black, but that was like, that was the fastest car that I think, next to a buddy that I knew in high school, that was the fastest car I was ever in. I mean, this thing was fucking fast. And Manfred and Philip used to buckle me and Greg in the back of this thing all the time, rip around the barnyard, head out on the road, squeal the tires, and we would just like race to Kingston. And, you know, to go to the bootlegger. And then turn around and race back to the farm. So, yeah, been in cars, been in back seat of cars with crazy people behind the wheel, and been going to bootlegger since I was like 5 years old. or at least being with somebody that was driving to the bootlegger. It was nothing to say, like, we're going to the bootleggers, hop in, boys. And me and us kids would just jump in because we want to get off the farm. It was an adventure with our older cousins.
Yeah.
But yeah, craziness growing up on a
Slide
farm.
aside there, since you mentioned the General Lee. I don't know what the most copied and most varied car is, but I looked up the General Lee, and I defy you to name me any vehicle that has not been done up like the General Lee. There's pickups, there's cars of all sorts. There's a big rig, probably like airplanes and boats and stuff. Somebody's probably done a tractor to look like the General, you know. Yeah, so I just wanted to interject that there because yeah.
General Lee is iconic. Are you kidding? That car defines everybody's childhood in our generation. I mean, even after the show went off the air, it went into reruns like right up to like at least 1990. And so that a whole generation is affected by that show. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it was like the best show on television when I was a kid. We look forward to that shit all the time. The only bad part is that Dallas, which was this soap opera that was on at the same time as the Dukes of Hazzards, was on the opposite channel. Well, I'll tell you, you got girls in the house. You're damn right it was a fight for which channel we were going to watch that night. I do remember that finally we did end up at a compromise where it was Dallas one Friday, and then the next Friday was Dukes of Hazzards. And we kept that going back and forth. And that worked fairly good until one of the shows got postponed. And I forget which one it was. But the following week, because somebody, I think it was the girls, didn't get their turn for Dallas. And the week that they were supposed to get their turn for Dallas was postponed or canceled till the next week. And of course, it's one of those continuing stories because it's a fucking soap opera. The girls really wanted to watch the next part. And so, yeah, I remember that turning into a fight in the living room. And then Father coming in, and it was just basically, fuck yous all, nobody's watching any TV. And he just pushed the button on the power button, and that was the end of that conversation. And so, yeah.
So this was in the days before you could stream to your iPad, and if you had 3 channels or something, and if the Prime Minister was on, your night was shot. He was on every channel. It was from Jeff Foxworthy, actually. He said, "You know how many channels we had when we were a kid? 3. And if the president was on, your night was shot. Walkers through the house, the president's on. He's on every channel. We're gonna miss Flipper."
Yeah. People that grew up in this generation, they don't know. It's like, I'm so happy now because it's like, I'll watch, like, something will come out, like a show will come out. People will tell me about it, and I'll just be like, yeah, I'll get around to it sometime. Yeah. Not worried about the schedule anymore. And speaking of movies, buddy, oh man, a friend of mine told me that I had to watch this movie, and she gave me the premise of the movie, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're probably right. I probably should watch that. And so I went ahead and did. The movie is called Don't Look Up. Now, I talked to another friend this morning. He watched it. he said that it was like, he found it distressing. He said, oh man, oh man, he's like, I just seen that, like, it was so distressing to him. And I'll tell you why, because of the movie. Me, on the other hand, I found the whole fucking thing hilarious as fuck. But that's only because I laugh at everybody's stupidity. So what the movie is about, I'll try not to give you too many spoilers, but it's about this huge meteor hurtling towards Earth. Scientists discover it. That's how these movies go. And they go to Washington to report it to the president. And they've got like a NASA representative with them and all their paperwork to back up their findings and everything like that. They get to the White House, and the White House brushes them off until the next day. And yeah, they go in, they do finally get in front of the president, female president, and dressed in a red dress, kind of familiar, and get told that they cannot deal with this extinction level event because the midterms are coming up. Now, I said, a lot of people watched this movie and it was too close to fucking reality. That's why my friend found it upsetting. And I was like, that's why it's funny, is because it's bang on with reality right now. So the scientists release their information, they get it out on the news feed, and then it becomes this whole debate of whether the asteroid really exists or not. Is there an asteroid hurtling towards an Earth, or is there not? So then it's like, so now it becomes, well, don't listen to those crazy people. Don't look up. Don't look up. Look down to the Earth where it's, we're going forward. And so they had these, so one side had pins that pointed up, the other side had pins with an arrow that pointed down. And then there was this fucktard that came on TV with an arrow that pointed both up and down. He's like, we need to come together as a society. It was so fucking ridiculous, but it was just, like I said, it was beyond parody. And so in the end, people finally see the comet in the sky and they're like, they lied to us, and everybody loses their fucking minds, and you can pretty much imagine. But I mean, it's like, if you just, I figured this out about halfway through the movie, or at least that's when I started thinking about it. If you just replace the word killer asteroid with vaccine or vax or getting jabbed, I was like, this movie fits right into what's playing out today. And I was just like, wow. And yeah, how it ends is fucking hilarious. I mean, in a really dark, sadistic, humorous way. It's like, it's a little bit funny. But yeah, it's a must watch. Like I said, I just found the whole fucking thing hilarious. But don't take it too seriously. But I thought it was a good way to wake people up, to show them what's going on around you. This is the same hysteria that's going on around you. It's happening in real time. Okay. Biden comes out. He basically surrenders. He says that there is no federal solution to the pandemic. So he basically surrendered. Shortly after that, the CDC comes out and they cut the quarantine days in half to 5 days. And people ask, well, why did you do that? Well, we just felt like people couldn't handle any more than 5 days. You've been telling us that you must quarantine for 4 days, a minimum of 10, to make sure that your asymptomatic test doesn't turn into outright symptoms. And so now you're telling us that it will present itself in 5 days. What changed in the science from, I don't know, 3 weeks ago? You know, no answer. Then they come out again. Oh, by the way, the PCR tests don't work. This is not me saying it. This is official CDC bullshit and WHO. So this is not me. They come out and they say, oh, the PCR tests don't work for these new COVID variants, so we've got to come up with a new test. And I was like, no shit, you'd want to come up with a new test because fucking all your PCR test is showing that the people that got the vaccine have COVID and you're making them quarantine. It's like, didn't they get the vaccine so they wouldn't get COVID? And now they're getting it again.
Sort of, but Crow is not. Okay. You know what? Let's call it good for right there. And yeah, well, that I think we can conclude part 2. So yeah.